Welcome to the Scene Snob interviews with your host, Mick Manhattan. Please like and subscribe to our channel and follow us at the Scene Snob.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Scene Snob interviews. I am your host, Mick Manhattan, the Scene Snob, and I am here joined today by two amazing filmmakers, writers, directors, Eshom and Ian Nelms. Their new movie, Fat Man, is out in theaters now, and it's on VOD starting November 24th. So make sure you go see it because it's amazing. Guys, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having us.
Absolutely. I mean, we had talked a little bit last month because I was so excited to see Fat Man. And when I finally got around to see it, I was just blown away. You guys, if I can draw a comparison on the movie, just for anybody watching, it reminds me, it did for Santa Claus what Dark Knight did for Batman.
And Dark Knight's awesome. We really like that movie.
Yeah, right? So like it made it plausible, made it like, oh wow, Santa can exist in this, in this real gritty world that we live in. I gotta ask, where did this come from? Where did this original story idea come from? This is crazy to me, but it was wonderful.
I think like for us, there was just room in the genre, right? Like we'd seen the more wholesome versions of Santa Claus. We'd seen the sociopath that comes down your chimney. We've seen rare exports and some other sort of genre bending stuff like that. People had like danced around the idea, but like Ian and I really saw a movie and the space in that realm that we could come and contribute a gritty sort of, a Santa Claus filled with valuables and idiosyncrasies and some like an everyman sort of Santa Claus.
Yeah, the one thing we were really excited about doing was bringing you into the world, and really getting you hooked on the human being that Chris is before we start really diving into sort of there's some more fantastical elements here, but we really wanted to ground him so much that you could hook onto him as a real person. And when things start going bad, you're hooked into him at a relatable level of like, oh yeah, well, he's a guy that's kind of fallen on hard times. He's a factory owner. He's trying to pay his bills. He's trying to pay his employees. Like, how's he going to get out of it? It's really like the crux of the story.
And just everything that went about it, you treated it in such a way that, like, even the elves in the movie, that can be hit or miss real quick. If you're playing this straight, you can introduce elves and that can go hard real quick. And you guys did it flawlessly because you gave them personalities, even though they're all numbers. And that was a brilliant idea for the movie. But like, just their interactions with the military personnel, things like that. It's just everything made sense. You made this world make sense. That like, if you watch Elf, you're like, yeah, it makes sense for children's imagination. But this, I'm like, I'm an adult, and I'm like, yeah, okay, Santa could exist in this situation. And you picked. First of all, and Marianne Jean-Baptiste is probably my favorite on-screen Mrs. Claus ever.
That's amazing, man. I love to hear that.
Oh my God, she blew it away. She was fantastic.
Guys, we've mentioned this before, but I can't even think of another actress right now. I'm sure they're out there, but like she quantified like capable, badass, alpha, has her shit together, but also has this amazing ability to be warm and motherly that's kind of, permeating right beneath the surface, like bubbling right beneath the surface. And that's what that needed,
And we were really stoked that she was going to use her British accent because that for us made the relationship more international. It made the story more international.
Gave you more questions like, neat, what was that like? Where was it?
It's such a beautiful. Again, we talked a little bit. I said this to Eshom in the beginning before we started that your movies, as gritty as they are, as action packed and violent as they can be, down to the basic is all heart. You guys have wonderful heart in all of your movies, like Small Town Crime, just the redemption tale there, and Waffle Street, just the. Everything is. There's so much heart to it, and I love that because I don't find a lot of screenplays that have heart to them anymore. Who really try to draw you in, and Fat Man has a lot of it. But one scene in particular, my wife and I looked at each other when Marianne's monologue about how they hold each other up.
Oh yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God, I'm watching a movie about Santa Claus and a hitman coming after him. And this is like one of the deepest monologues I've seen in film. Like, it's so wonderful and delivered perfectly. And I have to ask, because he's one of my favorites of all time, how did you come by Mel Gibson as Santa Claus? What was that like?
So for us, look, Ian and I, a version of this script existed 14 years ago, right? So it took a while to get there. So the actors we had in our mind's eye 14 years ago are very different from who we ended up with, realizing the movie with. But Gibson came on our radar. Look, number one, we're huge Lethal Weapon fans. Number two, we're huge Mad Max fans. Number three, we're huge Signs fans. We like a lot of his movies. And so we saw a Q&A with him on Hacksaw Ridge after a screening. And we're sitting there, and he comes out to do the Q&A, and he's got this amazing feral beard, and he's sort of like kneading the beard, and he looks like he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders because he's just finished production, and he's in the publicity slog there. And Ian and I just turned to each other, and we're like, but he still had the spark. He still has the energy. And we just turned to each other, and we're like, oh, that's the guy. Like the guy who's like, feels like he's carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. And then with the beard, we were just like, oh man, Mike Gibson would be really amazing. And he looks fantastic in a beard.
Oh, my wife even mentioned that when we were watching. She goes, listen, I don't care how old he gets. Mel Gibson in a beard can steal me away anytime. And I'm just like, I kind of get it. I mean, it's like, it's a fabulous beard. And, he was, people's sexiest man alive in 1987. Now he's playing Santa, and women are still like throwing themselves all over. But I think Santa. I don't think Mel Gibson, but now I do. I can't picture anybody else.
I love that. That's awesome.
It's amazing to me. It just to see all of the little things that you added to it. Just like the coat, the red coat was just badass. Awesome leather red coat. You get a glimpse of the sleigh, and it's kind of like a little broken down, and it's older. It's just everything you did about it was fantastic. So coming together and you're planning this out, I want to talk a little bit about pre-production for Fat Man. How did you picture this? Like, what was it like storyboarding, and like, how did you come across all these little things?
Well, I think first of all, Esh is a professional storyboard artist, and thankfully, he boards the entire film for us. So we really preconceive everything, even if it's two people sitting across from each other talking. Like, we have that completely boarded out. So we have our blueprint, and it changes on the day at times, but at least we have, a blueprint for what we want to do. When we get there, it's much easier to sort of step outside and be like, okay, well, what if he gets up, and what if he moves over here, and what if he does this, and what if I spin, and then I go, it's always just the nuance of the scene, but we have the hard blocking down,
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's our dry run, right, at the blocking. So we can articulate to our DP, Johnny Durango, who's shot 4 pictures with us. And then getting like the address, right, of Chris's homestead and the factory and all that stuff. So we shot the movie in Canada, Ontario. And we went up there in November, and we got to look at everything. And I remember we were driving around with our location scout for a few days, 4 or 5 days. And we were using Google Maps and on our phone. And so we were trying to find, because in the script, it's very specific, right? Like, you need his house, you need the bar, you need a couple structures, one for the sleigh, one for the deer, and then you need one for the entrance into the factory.
And we did not have cash, so we had to find something that was as there as possible.
Yes, so we it's about the 4th day, and we've probably looked at 70 to 100 farms in the interim, and we come across this one, and we're like, well, it looks like it kind of has all the structures, but it's like right in the middle of a neighborhood, and we're driving past like trampolines and wood sheds and all this stuff, and we're like, there's no way this is going to work. And then we zoom in a little bit further, and it's all Homestead Road, and we had written in the script that Chris's homestead was the location. And Ian and I get out of here. There's no way Chris's homestead is going to be on Homestead Road, but we got to go down there and look at it no matter what. And so we make the left, we're driving, we pass all the trampolines and the wood sheds, and we get, it opens, we literally go through a tree line, and we opens up into this farm, which is in the picture, and there it is, an 1820s house, an 1860 barn. It opens out like perfectly, looks gorgeous. All the other neighbors are hidden by trees. It looks like we're in the middle of nowhere, Alaska. And Ian and I just looked at each other and I'm like, holy smokes, this is miraculous. I can't believe we just found this.
Oh, it was perfect location too for this Santa Claus. It was perfect, and beautiful. And one of the things I want to talk about a little bit, I'm going to ask you about your inspirations, but I read that you guys dreamed of John Ford landscapes in your bio, and I'm a huge John Ford fan. So when I read that, my ears perked. I'm like, okay, let's do this. So you really nailed it with that. You nailed it with your landscapes. They were beautiful, especially you have Walton Goggins traveling the whole time. So you have a lot of background to work with, which, by the way, Walton Goggins.
Beast.
Oh, my God. That's a guy who looks like he has a look and the way he acts. You either want to have a beer with him or you're terrified of him.
Or both. Have a beer while being terrified.
He plays both so well. I was like, I could be this guy's best friend, or I could just be terrified of him at all times because he played a hell of a killer in this.
Yeah, I think Walton's like the guy you want if as a best friend when it gets a little pear shaped and you need some backup.
That's for damn sure. I just everything with him too, because he as much as everyone is in this film and everyone is a main player, he was sort of the kind of the crux of the whole thing. Because like he's bridging that gap between Chance's character and Mel's Santa. Like he's, it's so crazy how you wrote this character to be like haunted by Santa Claus all these years. And where did you draw on that for this character to bring into this type of hitman?
Well, I think for us in the structure of the screenplay, we kind of wanted it to be a baton pass. Right, so Billy's the seed that sparks it off, but he hands it to Walton, who ultimately has just as big, if not bigger, vendetta against Chris than Billy does. So that's kind of the structural idea of it.
And then hopefully you can see between those two characters that it's like, they may come from different backgrounds, Billy and Skinny Man, but you could see that one could turn into some version of the other. Like Billy could grow into a Skinny Man of some sort, maybe more boss Skinny Man, but you could see that he could grow into just like a horrible person that has, he's already pretty bad already, but I mean, he could grow into a worse person who actually is doing really horrible things all the time, like Skinny Man is at this point. And that's part of that baton pass too, right? It's like, okay, well, this guy's handing off to another guy who's just old.
Oh, did we lose Ian?
Yeah, we lost you for a second, Ian. Well, we will wait till he comes back, and then I can always edit it if that works for you. But yeah, I mean, I got to tell you guys, like your movies look so beautiful too. And sorry, we were waiting for you to come back, so I was just kind of gushing over you guys a little bit more.
I got to say, Ian, it was the best still I've ever seen. You were kind of like your mouth drooping, like one eye higher than the other. It was awesome.
It's so great.
Oh man, it was perfect.
So we can just loop that pretty much for the whole interview. We're going like,
do it whatever it takes.
But I mean, I want to move on a little bit and talk about your inspirations a bit. And talk about your other films too. So, what inspires you in terms of writing your films and making your films? Obviously, you like gritty movies. You like crime movies. What else is there that like what'd you grow up on? If we could say.
Yeah. So I think our mother is a huge lover of movies, in particular Clint Eastwood movies. And so Ian and I would get a new Eastwood classic every 2 weeks in the mail. And these are the days of VHS without dating us. And so a new VHS of like a Western, and whether that be the Leone Westerns or whatever, like, and then we would get also infused with those, like all the Dirty Harry series. So you can imagine this mashup as kids where we're getting a Dirty Harry and then a Western and a Dirty Harry and a Western. And then you get like a Firefox, but like you get that mashup and it sort of sculpted us.
Oh man, that's amazing, and I like that idea of the Western and the Dirty Harry movies because that really works, especially in your last two films. Like it is very Western vibe. It is very Dirty Harry vibe, and you have Mel Gibson, which just that hits the nail on the head right there.
And another thing to consider is Esh and I were just talking about this like a week or so ago, but it kind of dawned on us that you could see the influences in these choices as well. Is that we were talking about what's the first DVD we ever bought, and Esh, mine was Unforgiven. I was like, okay, the first DVD I ever bought was Unforgiven, and then
mine was Unbreakable.
Oh my God, 2 great movies to pick up on DVD. That's a great question, and you got me thinking about it. And the first 2 I ever owned, I bought with the DVD player, and they were brand new that week. Was The Replacements and Shaft with Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, that's a heck of a double feature.
I was like, I'm just going to check these 2 out. They're brand new, and it's a DVD player, so let's see how this works. But those are 2 solid choices. Unforgiven is my favorite Western of all time.
It's so amazing. And I think that, like, if you think about that mashup of films, though, like, it kind of has some influence on Fat Man.
You're like
100%.
Like a grounded superhero story, and something that's it's more of a thriller. It's like a slow burn character piece, and then it starts unraveling itself as a superhero movie, and it just blew our minds at the time. And then, I mean, similarly with Unforgiven, it's a character piece, but they're off on this mission, and then Eastwood slowly reveals himself to be a complete fucking badass maniac.
Oh yeah. Well, somebody wrote an article a long time ago I read, and I have just adopted that way of thinking about Unforgiven. It's the greatest love story of all time. And, he went into detail in this article about like how we see who Clint Eastwood's character is this. We see who Will Money is in this, and that he is basically invincible.
Yeah.
And he gave all of that up for this woman who they called her a homely woman, and but he was so in love, and he gave it all up again afterwards and just took care of the kids. And it's like, it really is a love story when you boil down to it. And I think that touches down again, coming back to your movies, with all of the heart behind them. Again, it's such every character has redeemable qualities. And I don't want to give anything away about Fat Man because it's brand new and I want people to go see it. But even Walton Goggins' Skinny Man character in this, there's almost a redeemable factor to him. Like once you kind of understand what's going on.
For sure, no. I mean, and it's something Ian and I always push to do is to not make like cardboard cutout bad guys. Like they need to feel 3-dimensional. You need to understand why they're acting a certain way.
Oh yeah, and Billy too. I mean, Billy, you at the beginning you're like he's a spoiled little kid, but by the end you're like, yeah, I feel for this kid.
Yeah, we definitely want you to feel. We definitely want you to be able to at least put yourself in their shoes and understand, like at least why that they're like that. It's not just that they were born innately evil. It was like something. It's either the circumstances they're in, or they went through something traumatic, or both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now with your other movies too, and I kind of want to talk a little bit about Waffle Street. Was that your first feature, or is that because I've watched some of your shorts too, and they're fantastic. You guys.
Oh, thanks.
There's one before that called Lost on Purpose.
There's actually 3 before that.
Oh yeah, okay.
The first movie we ever did was a movie called Squirrel Trap, and it was a $1,500 budget, $1,500 for an entire feature.
That's awesome.
We posted the whole thing in our living room. It was a 3-man crew, me, Eshom, and our dad. And Esh and I would switch off between manning the camera and manning the boom mic. And our dad lit the whole thing with 2 Coleman lanterns, a flashlight, a bounce card, and a fire.
A campfire.
That's awesome.
And then we just shot it all in 7 days. And then we had a couple pickup days back in LA. Interiors, but it was basically about a bunch of college kids who went off to do a 4-day weekend to research a paper on Thoreau. And, it's kind of breakfast clubby at first, and everyone's kind of like sitting around talking. You're learning about them all, and then it starts to turn into a thriller once one of the guys goes off the beds.
I love that. I can't wait to check it out.
I mean, look, it's not a great movie, but it's like a humble beginning.
$1,500 movie. But the great thing about it was it got us into film festivals, and we were able to watch it in real movie theaters with people. We learned a lot. We were just like, okay, we instantly went home and cut 10 minutes out of it after the premiere because we just thought it was moving too slow. And then we learned so much from that the next year we went back to all those same festivals and then some, and like won them all with the next movie, which was Night of the Dog. And that was a $5,000 feature film that we made with 4 of our very good friends. And everybody shot, wrote, directed, edited their own 20-minute segment. And then we cut them together like traffic. And we put some parameters on it so that it could all be cohesive. But that won a ton of film festivals. And then we got representation, and they said, hey, stop making these little movies. Like the next one you're going to do is like 5 to 10 million. And that was kind of what the vibe was coming out of the 90s into the early 2000s. That's kind of how it worked. You made something small. They saw that you had some talent, and then you got some bigger stars, and you got some bigger budgets. And we were like, okay, great. So they're like,
that sounds pretty good, right? $5 million. Like,
yeah.
Going from 5,000 to 5 million. We'll take it.
No. So we wrote, and we wrote for about 3 years. We took every meeting at every place you could think of in those 3 years. And we were just like, man, like nothing's getting made. Like we have to get back to making things. This is how we got here. And we went and raised $200,000 to go make a movie called Lost on Purpose, which was about 5 guys working on a dairy ranch. And the woman dairy owner named Miss Liz,
Played by Jane Kasmerick.
Oh, nice.
Who runs the dairy and is, she's being like big conglomerates are coming in trying to swallow her up as everyone's trying to survive. But again, it's another small man against big business type of story with kind of a I guess it's got like we were inspired by HUD and Last Picture Show and
American Graffiti.
Yeah, it's got that kind of vibe to it. And from that, we got into a ton of film festivals. We won about 20 awards at film festivals across the country. And then someone saw it at a festival and said, how much did you guys make that for? And because it looks like it's a couple $1,000,000 if you had to pay for everything that was on there. But we just went back to our hometown and begged, borrowed, and stole everything we could. And they were huge. They supported us massively. Our hometown is the only reason we were able to pull that off. But this woman saw the film and said, I've got $500,000 and the rights to this book I want to do called Waffle Street. She's like, I've got it developing in all these places, and we're turning it into like a $20 million rom-com. She's like, and it's just in development hell. We just keep spinning. I don't feel like it's ever going to get done, but can you guys figure out, read this book, read the script we have that I wrote. She wrote it. And she said, can you figure out how to do this for $500,000? So Esh and I read it, and we came back to them with a game plan of how to do it for $500,000. And we said, we'll write it, but you got to guarantee us that we're going to make it. And they did. And within 6 months of us starting to write the script, we were shooting in Utah and casting. It was crazy. It was the quickest turnaround on the planet. But we got to shoot that movie. We got to bring in James Lafferty again, who we collaborate with quite a bit. And then we got Danny Glover to play the surly line cook, man. It was a blast.
That's one thing I wanted to bring up. You've worked with Danny Glover.
Yeah.
You worked with Mel Gibson. So the clear directors for Lethal Weapon 5 are you guys.
Thank you.
Hey, Dick Donner's got it,
Oh, no.
90s, but apparently Mel keeps telling me, man, he's on it. He's got it.
We need some new blood in there. Come on, guys.
If Dick Donner wants to tag team and us in for a round or two, I'm down. But he's got first dibs for sure.
Exactly.
I got it. That's another great point that kind of segues into my next question. I have 2 brothers. I love them dearly. We have tried to collaborate on many things. It never really works out. But how do you guys do it? How do you guys? I mean, now I know that there's plenty of brother combos that are directing out there, but I never understand. Like my brothers want to kill each other when we're in the same room for too long, and you guys are making movies that are so good, and you're writing them and you're directing them. So how are you guys so easy to collaborate with each other?
I don't know if I can't speak for how other people do it, but I think Ian and I, number one, we grew up in a rural environment, so it was either get along or be really lonely. So we were like, okay, let's get along. We've always sort of had complementary skill sets. And then when we even as kids, we always loved movies. So we would go down to the local video store. We would rent between 6 and a dozen movies, buy a huge box of donuts, and just come home, and that would be our weekend, which is pounding donuts and watching movies, and then we'd have to go do chores once in a while. But through that process, our tastes sort of fused, and so I think we get along in that respect. As far as like when we go out, we both enjoy the same things in movies.
We have a similar taste. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. I could see it. Even like when you said Unforgiven and Unbreakable, I mean, the look and the feel of those movies are very similar. And they're very original pieces too, which definitely, it shows more of who you guys are. So that's a great answer. But going into it, so I've read also that now, Ian, you have more of a literary background when you went to school, and Eshom, you have more of a visual background. So, and you're also a storyboard artist. So, how does that, when you're working together, how does that kind of work? How do you hand off, I guess, between each other?
I guess you could say in the beginning, I mean, maybe just because I was writing more in college and S was drawing more in college, that maybe that was the skill set that we certainly we started off with, like with that it was like, oh, I'm doing more writing, and oh, Eshom's doing more drawing. Now I don't touch the storyboards. Esh does the storyboards. But I definitely get to have some input.
He's definitely handed drawings to me before.
Yeah, but they're drawings. They're like stick figures with squares, and like they're more like, they look like a bad comic strip.
Hey, they're enough.
But now,
that's why you two are loving brothers. Now I see it. Okay.
I do think it. No, but honestly, like I think we do have mad respect for each other, and that's where it starts, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the part, right? It's fine when you're both gelling on something, but the hard part is when you start, diverging. Oh, well, well, I think we really just trust each other, because I know that when we start arguing about something in the writing process or even the directing or editing process, it really comes down to the last what do you say? The last word
factor. Yeah.
Yeah. The last deciding factor is who's passionate most about it, because that person must see something that they have a vision for. And honestly, that only really down to like 5 or 10% at most of decisions in our script writing process. The rest is something that, like, we'll come up with an idea. I'll toss it to Esh. We'll bat it back and forth for 20 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, depending on how big the idea is that we're trying to fix. And then we'll come up with something that we both like at the end of that brainstorming session. And then it's just, how do we put it down the paper? So let's say I put it down or Esh puts it down first. I'll read it, and then we'll read what the other one wrote and say, and we'll just do our pass on it, basically. And then pass it back, and he'll do his pass. I'll pass it back to me. I'll do my pass. Pretty soon, we're literally changing one word in a sentence, on the entire page. And we're like, oh, well, what do you think about this? Or what about this dialogue here? I want to loosen it up a little bit. It feels a little expositional or whatever. It's things like that we just fine tune. But when somebody has an argument, it's literally like, okay, well, first we'll pitch it to each other. I'm like, hey, Ash, I want to do this. And he's like, I don't know. I don't like that line. And then I'll say, well, what if he said it like this? And I'll do the line as this, I may not be a master thespian, but I can at least get the cadence and the rhythm of what I wanted him to say out. And, imagining a certain actor of a certain caliber doing it, you can be like, okay, shit, if he said it like that would work, Yeah. And then that informs a lot. And then the other side of it is, I can't tell you how many times, like, Ash will, like, I remember vividly at one point in Lost on Purpose, Ash put a line in the movie and I was like, I don't like that line. He's like, no, it has to be in there because this isn't this. And I'm like, even when the movie finished and we were editing it, I was like, I'm going to cut this line out. He's like, no. You got to leave that line in. So I left it in. And lo and behold, man, like every screening we do with like 5 or 10 people at a time, these little screenings while we're editing, just fine tuning things. I swear almost every other screening we had, someone in that 5 or 10 people would be like, oh man, and that line, when he says this, it meant so much to me and led into this. I'm like, oh my God. Like, he was right. He was freaking right.
But look, I will say this, like, Ian remembers that line, but at the end of the process, like, I don't remember who wrote what lines.
Well, that's 99% of it. I don't remember who wrote, but if it's something I had a problem with or that I was really pushing for, I remember it. And that's kind of what it is, but we can't really tell who wrote what by the end of it, honestly.
That's a testament to your, how you guys collaborate and how well you do. And it works so well. Now, so I want to ask, like, what is next for you guys? Like, so you guys basically made a Christmas movie for the ages, man. And you've done the crime drama, you've done the like the romantic, kind of finding yourself with Waffle Street, and I can't wait to see Lost on Purpose. That sounds amazing and right up my alley.
Definitely has a piece of our soul in it, man.
That's awesome. And so I notice there's a lot of rural, because you guys said you grew up in a rural setting, like there's a lot of rural backdrop to your stories. Have you ever thought about maybe getting into like more of a city setting? Something like that. I'm saying film noir. I would love to see you guys do a film noir.
We definitely have a project right now, and it's nothing I can announce or anything, but it's something that's in the developmental stages that we're out pitching here and there off of a script that already existed. But then they said, "Hey, what do you guys think of this script?" We read it. We said, "Hey, here's what we would do with it." But it would be a pretty decent sized rewrite, and it is very much more metropolitan, very city, multifaceted kind of crime thriller. It's pretty awesome, but that would be something that would be more city for sure. Yeah, we're not afraid to really go anywhere. It's just kind of where our heads and our taste lands, right? I mean, we're working on a sci-fi horror film right now that Eshom and I are really excited about. A spec script that we're writing that we could be more pumped about. But then again, like, someone will pass us a script or something like Waffle Street or something and say, "Hey, like, can you guys do something with this?" And of course, we spent so much time in restaurant businesses as we were trying to make ends meet. Like, we had such an affinity and an affection for, oh man, we had started and stopped this, Waiting type script 2 or 3 times, but then Waiting came out and it's like, well, we don't need to do that again, Yeah. It was fun to sort of take something that was in a restaurant and have those moments that we always wanted to have in restaurants. It was great.
So I want to try something a little bit. I'm going to ask you, Ian, if Ash, you don't mind me calling you Ash.
He calls me that all the time.
If Ash doesn't mind, I'm going to ask you if he could direct anything. If you think, I want to know a genre that you think he would completely shine at, and then I'm going to go to you, Eshom, and ask you about Ian.
Okay.
You're saying what genre would Eshom shine at?
If you could put a movie in, I mean, let's open it up. Let's say any movie that's already been made, or ideas, or just anything. What do you think? If you put Eshom on the camera for that, he would really shine.
You know what I would really like to see him do? What I really think he might have, which I think I would like to see him do a sci-fi. I could see him doing something in the vein of like Close Encounters, but there's something. It would be like if Darren Aronofsky did Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Would kind of be how I'd probably think about, because Darren Aronofsky is so technical, so detail oriented, and he likes the minutia of the sort of the sci-fi. Like, you watch something like Pi, and it's filled with so many crazy, cool details. Like, Ash has a sensibility about him that's like that. He likes all the minutia of certain things and how they work, and like he likes, but he's also really good with story and character. But I know he likes sci-fi too, so I think that would be a really fun something like that. But I would like what he would do with it, because I think it would be a little more Aronofsky than what Spielberg did with it, which I would really dig, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we're working on something. So we have
something like that we're working on, and I just know that is what he will. I think he'll excel at something like that.
And the movie I want to see Ian do is, well, I'll just have to do a little genre mashup, but it's like Warrior meets Last Detail.
Whoa! Oh my God! That would be amazing.
And we have something.
Hell of a mashup.
So yeah, we got a couple of stuff that we're that it's in a little more genre ballparks, but we want to go all over, man. We'd really love to bring our flavor to space. We'd really love to bring our flavor to horror. I think there's room for that, right?
Yeah, I can't wait to see what the Nelms brothers do with these different genres, because seeing what you guys have done already, like, again, I'm a fan. You guys have won me over. So big time with your movies, and I can't wait to see Lost on Purpose and Squirrel Trap. And what was the other one that you said? The 5,000?
That Night of the Dog. That one's just a romp, dude. Made renegade style in the streets of LA.
I think Night of the Dog and Squirrel Trap are only available on Vimeo right now.
Okay.
We almost got Night of the Dog distributed, but it was right when the DVD market was falling apart, and the company that was distributing us went out of business in the middle of the acquisition, which sucked. And then we were moving on after that. We were just like, "Fuck it, we're making something else. I'm tired of this."
Well, Heavy Petting was on Vimeo. That's how I watched that.
Oh, it's amazing! Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I'll have to look. I mean, yeah, Google, like, search Night of the Dog on there and see. I can't remember if it's up or not. But that one has a bunch of like really talented filmmaker friends of ours. It's got Jeremy Catalino, who's a really great talent. Peter Donovan did a section with Peter Atencio, who did like all of Key and Peele.
Nice.
So yeah, so we got like some pretty cool collaborators on that we all worked with and knew and came up together with.
Where all those people started, because all those people were working at the ArcLight movie theater.
I love the ArcLight.
And we were like, man, let's make something, you know.
Yeah, I lived out there for 5 years, and that was the ArcLight was I loved going there, man, because they just at least kept it nice, clean, everything. The sound was perfect, and nobody else in any other part of the country.
And it has this amazing vibe, right? Because they got all these amazing posters all over the wall, like movie posters all over their wall. You have like only the most epic scores playing very loud. You know, as you walk in, it's like dun 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 dun. You're like, holy shit, where am I? You know?
Their bookstore is amazing. You can find some.
Yeah. I did some time behind that retail counter. Oh yeah.
No, I mean, that sounds great. I cannot wait to check these movies out. And I do want to ask one thing. I try not to be like, well, is it like working with this person and this person? But, you know, recently, him having passed away, you guys got to work with the great Robert Forster. And he was just, I mean, countless movies where he delivered amazing performances. And Small Town Crime, I is one of them, 100%. Like, everybody did an amazing job in that movie. But yeah, I just got to ask, what was it like working with him?
He's such a gentleman, man. Honestly, like, such a wonderful collaboration. I can't say a single, like, he was just an amazing person. It's a horrible loss that he's not here anymore, because Robert really was. He's just a great dude. And even after the movie, like, we'd go and have breakfast with him and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a real heartbreaker that he's gone. But we had a wonderful collaboration with him.
Tell us such amazing stories. I mean, not just like, you know, like about being in the business stories, but it was the ups and downs of business stories that he would tell us that would not only inspire you, but just, I don't know, not only show you what an incredible guy he is and what he had to persevere through, but teach you so many lessons about not giving up. And he was talking about this one point where I think he was in his 50s, and he was telling us he was like in his 50s and his career like a skid, and he was broke, and he was trying to, you know, it was just, and he was telling us about him just sort of having to let it all go, and just to mentally, before everything started happening for him again. Yeah, it was like he took us through his whole career at one point at breakfast, which was, he said he actually does like an inspirational talk with it.
Yeah.
So it's not anything that's not out there somewhere, but I think it was recorded somewhere, he said, but he was telling us that he actually gave this talk somewhere, and that he had given it at a couple of places to inspire filmmakers and actors and people in business. Like, they would have him come in and talk. But it was just really inspiring to hear him talk about that and have him talk about overcoming certain things. And yeah, man, he's a badass. He was such a gentleman.
Yeah, and I love to hear stuff like that, especially, you know, I love The Black Hole growing up, you know, but you get like a movie like The Black Hole from Disney, and he's amazing in that. And then you get him in Alligator, which is another one that's just like out there, but I love it. You know, it's one of those horror movies you're like, yeah, okay, this is crazy, but Robert Forster makes this believable.
Like, it's kind of his signature. He gives everyone a letter opener.
Oh,
like,
really?
Yeah. So if you work with him, he'll give you a chrome letter opener. And I guess he's been doing this for years. So I imagine there's a lot of chrome letter openers out there, but it really is, it's really touching to sit there and see that. To see that, you're just like, Bob, I love you, man.
Well, I remember Clifton Collins Jr. had worked with him before Small Town Crime, and I remember after we wrapped, I remember Cliff and Robert just talking about loving to work together. And I remember when we first told Cliff that we had Robert Forster for that other role, he almost came unglued. He was so excited. I think it's like his attitude and like just being a gentleman, like what a badass he is. Like he was no nonsense. You weren't going to go on set and try to you couldn't just sit there and sleepwalk through the scene with him. That's never going to happen. But he was very no nonsense, but he was very good. And he was very much a gentleman about everything and anything, he's just like, well, what if we try this, guys? And he's very like inclusive and collaborative and just a fucking artist, man. And a badass. And he took everything seriously. And I think that's what you could see. It's like whether he's in fucking Alligator, Black Hole, Small Town Crime, fucking this. I haven't seen it yet. You watched the newest one, the Wolf.
Oh yeah, Wolf Hollow. Yeah,
oh my God, it's so good.
I really liked it too.
Excited to see that. But he gives you 100%. It's like getting Mel in your movie or getting Nick Cage in your movie. Like the guy's gonna go hard. You know what I mean? Like these people have careers for a reason. It's because whether they're in like a serious drama or a prestige film, or they're in something that might seem a little like a horror film or off color or weird, that they go hard, man. They still deliver. Good.
I think to your point, Ian, like there is no such thing as a B movie for those guys.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I love to see that too. Like one of the people that attracted me to Small Town Crime the first time I saw it was Clifton Collins Jr. He is one of my favorite actors of all time.
Us too.
Everything he's in. A lot of people like that. You get a lot of like film fans. They'll criticize different movies, stuff like that. But I have never seen him give a bad performance in a movie.
Dude,
so
he's great.
The one that sticks out to us, and I don't know if you've seen this one, you may have, but when we brought this up to Cliff, he just shook his head. So the Stoned Age. Have you ever seen that film?
Yeah. I can't
so we're like, Cliff, Stoned Age. That's like, we can't wait to work with you. He's like, oh my God, guys, really?
I did fucking Frankie Flowers and Traffic. I'm this, I'm that. And you guys bring up Stoned Age? We're like, dude, that's what we're introduced to you. He's so great in that movie. Stoner comedy where he plays this loser named Tack, and he is so funny. He's like hilarious.
When he hits the blacktop and is rolling and all the stuffing is flying out of his vest.
And he gives that little look.
I like everything he's doing. I've watched. He's just that good of an actor. He draws you in, and he doesn't do nearly as much as I'd love to see him in. If that makes sense in a weird way.
Yeah. Like you want to get that leading. Like everyone wants to see him do that like breakout leading man role, right?
Well, I thought he did a really good job years ago. What was the movie that I'm trying to think of the movie he was in.
He's good in 999, but I don't know the movie. Like,
no, this was years before that.
The movie doesn't wrap itself. He's great in it.
It was a boxing movie. I'm trying to think of the name of it. Price of Glory. If anyone's seen that movie, Jimmy Smith plays the dad in it, and he's the grown-up version of one of his sons. And I think if you guys haven't seen it, I think you guys will really like it. Jimmy Smith raises his sons to be boxers, and it's a hard drama because Jimmy Smith was a very like abusive dad and neglectful of certain sons and stuff, and he plays the middle son, and he blows it away. It's an amazing performance, and that's one that I don't think gets enough respect, especially as a sports movie or as a drama, and that was a leading man role for him. That I think.
Yeah, we'll add it to the. So I'm curious. Can we ask? I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
So you'd already seen Small Town Crime.
Oh yeah.
Before you saw,
everybody asked about Freddie and Michael over here and the worst ones.
No. I guess like going from like small town to Fat Man.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Whoop. Oh no.
Right, cliffhanger.
I know, right? I was expecting like really fun question here. I hope, or I got,
I'm sure,
but I mean,
I'm sure
everything. Oh yeah. Oh, here he is. Okay, he's popping back on.
Sorry about that. I got this computer with a touch panel, and when I kind of like gestured forward, I just touched the panel, and it like disconnected me.
I can't. You're breaking up in mine. Is he breaking up in yours, Mick?
No, you're good at mine.
We'll come back. But I just think it's interesting because we wrote Fat Man, many years before Small Town Crime, and then we didn't think we were even going to get to make Fat Man as soon as we did. We actually thought we'd have to make another movie or two before we get there. Like, what is it like for you to juxtapose those two movies? Does it feel like an evolution, or like what does that feel like?
No, it's not I would, because they both match so well. They're both beautiful in their own right and what you're doing. So look wise, like if you told me, not knowing you guys, and you said these brothers did did both these movies, I'd say, yeah, I can see the look. I can see the imprint on the story. I can see the imprint on the look. Both beautiful, both well directed, the whole nine. And I think your cinematographer, Johnny Durango, I want to say,
nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah, he has a beautiful look to him. It's fantastic. So to see those two, and now to learn that you wrote Fat Man 14 years ago, I didn't see it. I'm wondering if that's because, and this just as a film fan, because you did make it afterwards. Not to say that the script may have changed, but maybe your idea of the look may have changed as you cast, as you did this, and it evolved from there. And maybe you took some from Small Town Crime, because I can definitely see Fat Man coming from Small Town Crime in a way, if you get what I mean.
Yeah. So like we rewrote the script almost every year from 14 years ago to now. So we would update it. And then there was like an evolution, right before we started shooting it. So that evolved. What was interesting is like some of because we were trying to get to Fat Man, so we had to do material that kind of led up to it. So some of you might see an overlap in some of the stuff between those two pictures.
Really? Like, well, give me some examples if you don't mind.
I mean, just as like a structural thing, like they both end in a gunfight.
Oh yeah. Well, I kind of got the feel going into it and going back and watching Waffle Street, and kind of those are the three I was comparing, because Waffle Street's a very different movie. It's on its own. Beautiful movie, and it's a fun movie. But these two are fall more in line, in my opinion. So, like, after watching Fat Man and knowing Small Town Crime, I was like, okay. Yeah, I was like, I see why it was like that. I see you have a very violent feel to both. But again, there's so much heart behind it. It's not like glorified violence. You know what I mean? It makes sense in both movies.
It's interesting, too. Like, I think maybe why Waffle Street feels like a bit of an outlier is we had done Lost on Purpose and we showed it to our parents and they were like, oh yeah, we really like the movie, but can you think of any other word to use other than fuck? And we were like, well, let's see like if we can do that. So when Waffle Street landed on our desk, we were like, oh, this could be like a clean routine movie for us. And so that's kind of what we set out to make, was like, oh, let's try to do a clean routine movie. And we can sort of take some of that.
Sorry, go ahead, Ash.
No, yeah, it was just, and then obviously like take all that server experience, post-traumatic stress, and like put it in there.
And beyond
it's hard to believe,
and the book and the producers really wanting to lean into it being a PG film, I mean, and we could see that, like that's what it needed to be, But yeah, we had our reasons for wanting and being very excited to do it. But it is funny how what inspires you to do certain work, like we were just like, oh, this is why we're excited to do this one, Yeah.
Yeah. I was
right back to our hard thrillers.
Well, not having seen Lost on Purpose, like it felt to me, again, this is knowing and putting everything together, especially when I'm doing research for the interview. I'm like, oh, I feel like they did this movie because I know it was based on a book. They just wanted to break out and do something violent, I guess, sort of thing. But now I got to go back and watch Lost on Purpose and see kind of where the evolution really is and where it comes from. And I love it. I love that your parents said that to you and you're like, oh no, okay, well, let's try this. That's genius filmmaking, in my opinion.
But so we had been writing all of these crime thrillers even before we did Lost on Purpose. But we just couldn't get them made. No one would let us have the opportunity or the budget to go make them. So we had them sitting in the drawer. And so when we got through Lost on Purpose and Waffle Street, did the same producers that did Waffle Street with us said, hey, what do you have next? And we said, well, we have some crime thrillers, but they're nothing like Waffle Street. And they're like, oh, good. Well, give us those. We might have money. So we're like, okay, great. So that's how it started.
Nice. And I mean, you guys got a killer cast. I mean, you think of great actors today, and just going on Small Town Crime, you think of great actors today, and they're in your movie. It's like John Hawkes. I mean, come on. And then Octavia Spencer you add to it, and Anthony Anderson is like, I mean, even at that time for it to come out was like huge on his TV show. Yeah. And it just they're laying down such great roles, and Robert Forster, of course, and Clifton Collins Jr. But for you, like stepping into it, and like you're coming off Wall Street, you're working with somebody like Danny Glover, Lost on Purpose. Just seeing the cast, like, what's it like stepping onto Small Town Crime and saying, "Okay, all right, we have an Academy Award nominee here." This like as directors. How do you kind of get into the mentality of directing actors like that?
You mean that?
Sure. I think we approached it like every other one of them. I mean, at that point, we'd made, when we were stepping into Small Town Crime, we were stepping into something, was our fifth film, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's our fifth film. So we were definitely pretty set in our process, you know what I mean, of like how we liked to work. And we definitely didn't break that. But I will say it was the first time, like you're saying, that we ever had such a deep ensemble of talent. And it was like Christmas coming to work every day, because some new piece was sliding in, like a Katie Lotz or a Michael Vartan or a Daniel Sunjata or, Clifton Collins, or the ones we've been talking about, obviously. But yeah, we had just such a deep bench. We were just like, it was so much fun to come to work every day. And we brought Lafferty back for that one. Jeremy Ratchford, who plays the hitman. We had so many people that were just animals and just giving us 110%. We were a little movie, man. We were little.
But it also helped that we were friends with Octavia Spencer. And so she made us feel really safe.
You might want to talk about how we got all that deep bench, I guess maybe is a better way to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, we just, Octavia was a friend. We'd known her for a long time, long before she did The Help. And we were all out there working on each other's projects. And we knew Octavia's kryptonite, that she loved crime thrillers. And so we were writing doing an adaptation of a book for her. And we came over, we were talking about the project, and then we happened to have the trailer for Waffle Street, which we showed her, and she was super pumped because of Danny. And she was like, oh, shit, you guys got Danny Glover. That's amazing. And then we're like, hey, we're doing a crime thriller next. And, we happen to have the lookbook and the script right here. And, you could take a gander at that. And so she was like, oh, shoot. Because, I remember when she was watching, like, Making of a Murderer. And she'd be like, he did it, y'all. I could see it in his eyes. Like, I know he did it. So we were like, okay, well, hey, have a look. And then she called us like 24 hours later, and she's like, I love it. I'm in. I'm EPing it. Like, is there a cop or something I could play in this? And we were like, well, what if you like played the sister? She like, interracial dynamic. And she's like, I like that. And we're like, great. So like, we were off and running, and then she like went to Hawks, and she's like, I'll reach out to John. Like, she'll bring your list. So we brought over our list, and John Hawks was on the list, and she's like, John Hawks, like, let's do it. And so she's like, I'll reach out to him. And John's like off the grid. Like, you have to fax some things. Like, he's a Luddite for sure. He's not appreciative of technology in a lot of ways. And so she sends him this fax, and it says, hey, John, like we've been in 2 movies together. We've never had a scene together. Let's remedy that. All I want to say is we play brother and sister. And she just drops the script on him. Right. And he's like, okay, I got to read this. I mean, he's thinking it's going to be like The Jerk, right? So he's like, I got to read this. Like, I don't know. He's like, I read it. And he's like, I'm so glad it wasn't The Jerk and it's this. Not that there's anything wrong with The Jerk, but but he was like in, right? He's like, and then remember we sat down with John at some cafe, and he's like, okay, guys, like I've only read it 3 times, and this has been like, a day and a half or something. And we're like, okay, like he's obviously the right dude. And then the next thing Octavia was like, okay, well, who's going to play my husband, y'all? And we're like, okay, well, like Anthony Anderson's our number 1 pick. And she's like, he's got Blackish. He's real busy, but he and I get our nails done at the same salon. And we're like, it's so like 3 days later, she calls us. She's like, Anthony's in, boys. And they didn't meet at the salon, but she wrangled him.
That is amazing.
After we had those 3, the money we were pretty much greenlit from the financiers. Like, okay, we feel good. And then it was just up to Ash and I to sort of see how far we could take the rest of that bench with the money that we had left. There was the certain amount we needed to make the film, and every dollar we had, we tried to put into bringing another actor into another role because it just needed it. We were just like, it was the first time we had a bench that deep that was needed, honestly, because we just had so many little roles that were key and pivotal to certain scenes. We just wanted to make sure that we had someone in there that was going to kill it.
Yeah, even bringing Dale Dickey in to do the bartender,
Yeah, and I was going to say that too, because Dale Dickey's been in a lot of your movies.
Oh, we love her. Yeah.
Big love for Dale. She's awesome.
We almost got her in Batman, but the schedule didn't work.
Oh man, and that is a true testament to great directors. Look at all of the great directors throughout time. You guys are on that list because you have your crew. You have people who will come back and do your movies over and over again. That says something about the director, because there's plenty of directors out there. They ain't getting people back.
And look, Ian and I really are excited about the process. We love the people we collaborate with, and that's all we can bring to the table, right?
Listen, you can be as humble as you want. It's my show. I'm going to tell people you're on that list. All right, you're on that list of great directors, and I want everybody who's watching this to go out, not just see Fat Man. I want them to go back and watch all of your movies. Because oh my God, the 3 I've seen and the short films I watched too are so good. You guys are great writers. You guys are great directors. You bring originality to the industry, in an industry that needs it right now, especially with the dumpster fire that is 2020. So you guys are bringing that creativity, and I love it. And before we end things, I want to ask you, I always try to leave things with like a fun little question, and I'm going to ask you both. Top 5 remote dropper movies. If it's on TV, you're like, I'm out. I'm just sitting here all day until this is over.
Probably. You want me to go first, or you want to go, Ash?
Wait, it's a movie?
Yeah. I mean, you can do a TV show, but like, I'm really interested in those movies. Like, if it's on TV, you're like, yep.
Top 5. Okay. Well, if I get overlaps, Ian, you go first. If I get overlaps, though, I'll have to just ping Ian's overlaps.
That's fair.
Predator.
Bing.
That's the first time that's ever been said.
Dude.
Wow. I can't believe that.
I can't tell you how many times the remote dropping thing has happened to us. We used to have this night where we'd go out. This is when all of our friends were still in town. But we used to have this night where we'd go all hang out and play board games and stupid nerdy things like that and just talk film and shoot the shit for a couple hours after having dinner. And I swear to God, Predator came on. If we did that night 30 times, Predator came on
28.
Like that, like Predator would come on and we would all just be sitting there, just the board game would kind of go away for a second. We're all just watching scenes and you would just be like, man, I can't believe this movie's so fucking great. So I'd say Predator.
Maybe we'll just switch them back and forth. Can we do that? All right. Big Lebowski.
Yeah,
that's a solid choice.
Yeah.
Solid choice.
Another one I would say that it's probably the DVD I pull out either most or second to the most. And of course, if it was on, I would just keep watching it. But True Romance is one of those.
Great movie. Great performances in that.
Let's see here. Gosh, I don't know. It's getting. I always go back to Aviator. I know that's an atypical choice for people, but that movie really speaks to me.
It's a beautiful movie. Everybody. I mean, Cate Blanchett's great as Katharine Hepburn in it. Like, everything was just fantastic. That's an underappreciated movie, in my opinion.
It is a damn good movie.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, look, there's a ton of Scorsese movies that are great, like Taxi Driver is amongst my favorite, but for whatever reason, Aviator is the one I find myself going to more often.
I get it. Goodfellas for me. I'll go back and I grew up in like northern Jersey where all the mobsters are running around. So for me, like it just reminds me of home. Like I have to watch The Sopranos at least once every 2 years or so. You know, it just reminds me of where I grew up. I was not a mobster. I'm just putting that out there now.
I'm going to finish with The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, because that comes on a ton when we're at our parents' house.
That's solid. That's
maybe
solid.
The nature of what channel they have it on all the time, but it literally will come on a ton. And it's always like, you know, whether it's like them, you know, blowing up the bridge to cross it, or like, you know, them heading into that final shootout, or there's so many moments in that movie that just stand out to me, or just their character intros. They're so fucking great. Such a phenomenal movie.
They really are. Oh my God.
And then one that we like to watch before we go out and do every movie, we'll watch it together, is Hearts of Darkness, A Filmmaker's Apocalypse. And so we'll watch that every time before we go make a movie.
It's so amazing.
It is such an amazing documentary. I got to imagine, like, before you're going to do it, though, like, I can't imagine watching that and being like, yeah, I'm ready. I'd almost be like, all right, we haven't second thoughts about this. I mean, we've done this a bit, but I mean, what
we've realized is like half of making movies is just solving problems. Half of it's creative and fun, but the other half is just solving problems. That's the job.
Yeah.
That's great advice for filmmakers, 100%. And guys, I just got to say, like, it's just been truly amazing. I am such a big fan. You guys are, I mean, the big things you're doing and the big things I can see coming are I can't wait. And here on the Scene Snobs, you ever want to come on talk movies, or you ever want to come on and promote anything, please reach out. Feel free. I would love to have you on. You guys are fantastic.
Thank you for having us. It means
really
a lot.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
And, you know, for everybody watching, make sure you're going to check out Fat Man. If you haven't seen Small Town Crime, Waffle Street, Lost on Purpose, go back and look at their movies. These are beautiful movies. They're doing it. These are creative, heartfelt movies with a lot of violence. It's a beautiful thing. And I love it. So go check this out. Eshom, Ian, thank you again. The Nelms brothers, everybody. Is there anything else you want to promote, like social media or anything like that coming up? Or
No. I mean, we're out there, you know, nelmsbros.com and Facebook and all that good stuff, and IG. I don't know.
It's us behind them. So yeah.
Perfect.
And then obviously the movie's dropping on the 24th tomorrow.
Yeah. Tomorrow. POD day.
Go check
Thank you
out.
so much.
Thank you guys again. It has been fantastic. You guys are amazing, and I appreciate you coming on the show.
Our absolute pleasure, brother. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Until next time, everybody. I am the Scene Snob, Mick Manhattan. You can follow us, or just go to thescenesnobs.com. We got everything there. But thanks again for watching. Take care.